Your transmission does not care how cheap the fluid was or how confident the label sounded. It only cares whether that fluid actually does its job. The automatic in your parents' old sedan could survive almost anything that was red and called ATF. Those old 4-speed slush boxes were forgiving. Modern 8-speed automatics, CVT units, and dual clutch boxes are closer to medical equipment than to old-school machinery. One wrong bottle and they are on life support. Modern transmissions run razor-thin tolerances and brutal heat loads. The software that controls your shifts expects a very specific friction profile from the fluid inside. This is a chemistry match, not a guess. Yet big box stores and quick lube chains still push so-called universal miracle juice like it is 1995. They love any fluid they can pump into almost every car that rolls in because that means simple inventory and higher margins. On one side, you have proper manufacturer spec fluids that are boring, more expensive, and absolutely essential. They quietly keep gear sets alive for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. On the other side, you have bargain bottles that slowly turn your gearbox into a grenade. They promise compatibility with half the market and leave you with shudder, slipping, and a repair quote that feels like a used car price tag. Here is the thing. The people selling you this fluid are not the ones paying for a rebuilt CVT or a dual clutch replacement. You are. They walk away with a little extra profit. You drive away with a ticking time bomb in your drivetrain. If you do not know what is in that bottle, you are gambling with a repair bill that will hurt. Stay to the end, because the last so-called universal fluid on this list is marketed as a cure-all, but mechanics treat it as gearbox euthanasia in a jug. Brand number 1, Legacy Universal. A TF. This is the old works in almost anything, a TF that refuses to die. It built its name back when torque converters were lazy, valve bodies were simple, and 4 forward gears felt impressive. In that world, it was not completely insane. In a modern 6-speed, 8-speed, or 10-speed transmission, it is a dinosaur that wandered into a city. The pattern is predictable. A newer automatic is shifting fine. The owner goes in for a fluid change. The shop pumps in its favorite Legacy Universal ATF because it is cheap and bought by the drum. A few thousand kilometers later, the complaints start. Converter shudder, a delay from park into drive, gear hunting that feels like the software suddenly forgot how to drive. The chemistry is the problem. The additive package and viscosity profile on this old formula were never designed for high-pressure valve bodies and tightly packed modern gear sets. Here is the thing. The friction characteristics do not match what the transmission software expects. Clutches do not grab cleanly. They slip just enough to build heat, and that heat slowly cooks both the fluid and the hardware. You save a little at the counter and hand that saving back with interest at the transmission shop. This fluid should have retired with cassette decks and carburetors. If your car has more than 4 gears, this so-called universal throwback is not a bargain. It is an accessory to failure. Brand number 2, cheap CVT-compatible house brand fluid. On the shelf, this looks like a clever move. It uses the same buzzwords as the manufacturer's CVT fluid, offers a lower price, and prints the magic phrase compatible with most CVT transmissions. For a budget-conscious owner, that is an easy sell. For the people who have to repair these units, it feels more like spinning a loaded cylinder. The stories all sound the same. A CVT that was fine, maybe a bit noisy, gets a fluid service. The shop or owner chooses a private label CVT-compatible bottle because it is cheap and easy to grab. Not long after, the whining starts. Then you feel slip under acceleration. Engine revs flare without matching speed, and the car feels like it is driving through pudding. CVT units rely on very specific friction behavior and tight thermal control around the belt or chain and pulleys. Here is the thing. The fluid is not just lubrication, it is also the grip and a big part of the cooling system. If the fluid shears down too quickly or the additives are not correct, the belt slips and the whole unit runs hotter than it was designed to. Your CVT is already one of the least forgiving transmissions on the road. Now it has a bargain lubricant that cannot do the job. Once the belt starts slipping and the pulleys glaze, the replacement cost makes the fluid savings look ridiculous. This is palliative care in a bottle for a CVT. It buys a little comfort on the way to the end. Brand number 3, multi-vehicle. A TF in dual clutch transmissions. This is the one bottle to rule them all fluid that turns into a silent killer when it goes into a dual clutch gearbox. The label throws around a long list of specifications and may even hint at dual clutch use. The moment a shop uses it instead of the specific fluid your dual clutch system calls for, you are in trouble. Dual clutch transmissions live and die by tightly tuned friction modifiers. Those wet clutches must engage and release with surgical control. Too much friction and engagement is harsh. Too little, and they slip, build heat, and destroy themselves. When a generic multi-vehicle ATF tries to stand in for a proper dual clutch formulation, everything goes sideways. You see harsh takeoffs, judder from a stop, and rapid clutch wear. Gearboxes that were just a little jerky from the factory suddenly feel almost undrivable. Here is the thing. A dual clutch box has almost no tolerance for the wrong fluid. Translation: use the wrong chemistry and the clutches either grab too hard or slip too much. Both paths end in cooked hardware. You end up with lurchy starts and scary hesitation when you try to merge or cross traffic. Eventually you hear the phrase "you need a clutch pack," and the number attached to that sentence is painful. Using a generic multi-vehicle ATF here is like filling a race bike with lawnmower oil. It might technically be oil, but that does not make it right. And get this. The next brand does not just risk damage, it promises to restore a dying transmission with a magic bottle. If you value someone warning you before you nuke your gearbox, hit subscribe, and like so more drivers get this information before it is too late. Brand number 4, high mileage ATF with leak stop additives. This is the miracle fluid for old tired gearboxes. The label promises to swell seals, quiet clunks, and restore smooth shifts in one shot. Owners want to believe it. Many mechanics quietly call it last rites in a bottle. At first it looks like it works. Shifts feel smoother. Some noise drops. A small leak might slow down. Then, after a while, the decline starts. Shifts become lazy. Engagement softens and then turns into slip. Eventually, you are dealing with behavior that is much worse than what you had before. The reason is simple. Thickeners and aggressive friction modifiers can hide symptoms, but they also change how clutch packs apply and release. Translation: you are throwing a chemical blanket over the transmission's problems instead of fixing them. That blanket clogs passages, alters apply times, and pushes the calibration away from what the engineers intended. For a brief moment, you feel like you got away with it. After that, you are past the point of easy fixes. This is palliative care disguised as a cure. Your transmission feels calmer while it quietly walks toward the edge. Brand number 5, generic, suitable for most Asian vehicles, fluid. This bottle targets owners of Japanese and Korean cars who know they need something specific but do not want to pay dealer prices. The label claims broad compatibility with multiple Japanese and Korean fluid specifications. Chemistry behind that promise often tells a different story. Different Asian manufacturers require very different friction and viscosity profiles in their transmissions. What a Toyota needs is not the same as what a Honda or a Hyundai wants. When one fluid claims to cover them all without clear documented approvals, you should be skeptical. The outcome is predictable. Owners report shudder, flares between gears, and strange shift timing after switching to these vague Asian spec fluids. Many dealers refuse to use anything but their own branded fluid for exactly this reason. Here is the thing. Your transmission does not understand close enough. Bundling multiple distinct manufacturer requirements into one generic brew guarantees that it will be wrong for at least some of them. You feel like you found a smart middle ground. Your gearbox feels like it got ambushed. Minor shift issues appear, then harden into expensive faults. This is the automotive equivalent of writing works with most medicines on a pill bottle. Reckless is the polite word. If you think vague Asian vehicle labels are sketchy, wait until you hear about the off-brand fluids in giant online jugs. And I want to hear from you. Are quick lube shops or parts stores in your area pushing one generic fluid for every car? Drop your stories in the comments. The patterns are usually uglier than any single ad admits. Brand number 6, no name. Bulk ATF from discount online sellers. This is the giant jug you find when you sort search results by lowest price. The label is generic. The logo looks like stock clip art. The description is packed with buzzwords and thin on specifics. For some owners, that is enough. It says ATF and it is cheap. In practice, these fluids are all over the map. Color, smell, and behavior can change from batch to batch. There are reports of fluid turning dark and smelling burnt far too soon after a change. The specification list is usually vague or obviously copy-pasted. What you almost never see is a clear, verifiable list of real approvals. When cost is the only real target, base oil quality and additive chemistry are what get sacrificed. Here is the thing. That means the fluid breaks down under heat instead of holding its properties. As it fails, it leaves varnish, sludge, and weak lubrication behind. Your transmission becomes the test subject for the cheapest bidder on the internet. Once it goes wrong, there is no helpful warranty department behind an anonymous listing. This is gearbox gambling sold in bulk. Brand number 7, OEM equivalent, without real approvals. This is the bottle that looks official and sounds confident. The colors and layout may even mimic manufacturer branding. The key phrase is sneaky. It says for use where manufacturer fluid X is recommended. That is not the same as approved by manufacturer X. In the fine print, you see hedging language. You see recommended for use where a certain fluid is required, which really means we think this is close. You do not see the word approved, and you do not see clear references to validation testing. You rarely see the automaker's name attached in any meaningful way. Mechanics who pay attention avoid these fluids on cars that still have warranty coverage. They have seen mixed results and do not want to argue with an automaker when something fails. Meeting the bare minimum of a specification on paper and being validated by the people who designed the transmission are two very different things. You are putting your trust in marketing copies of a spec sheet instead of the engineers who know what the hardware needs. If the transmission fails, the manufacturer can simply say, "That was not our fluid, and that is your problem." This is the counterfeit badge of the fluid world. It looks right from a distance and falls apart as soon as you look closely. Brand number 8 covers every spec ever. Super Universal Fluid. This is the bottle that claims to work in nearly every automatic, every CVT, and every dual clutch on the road. The back label reads like a phone book of manufacturers and fluid codes. To an uninformed buyer, that sounds perfect. To anyone who understands these systems, it looks reckless. The idea that one fluid can truly meet every modern requirement across completely different transmission designs is fantasy. Somewhere in all that compromise, something critical has been shaved away. Maybe the friction curve is close enough for a few transmissions and completely wrong for others. Maybe the viscosity is a mushy average that is not ideal at cold start or at high heat. Here is the thing. Your gearbox does not need a social butterfly. It needs a partner that was designed for it. When a bottle claims to be everything to everyone, what it is really optimized for is shelf appeal, not survival inside your hardware. You think you are simplifying maintenance and avoiding confusion. In reality, you are rolling the dice on one of the most complex and expensive components in your car. Everything looks fine until it does not. By the time symptoms show up, the damage is already established. This is the Pompeii of the Pacific for transmissions. Life looks normal right up until it is buried. If a fluid claims to cover every specification ever written, treat that as a warning, not a benefit. Modern transmissions are complex, fragile, and completely dependent on the right chemistry. The fluid aisle, however, is still full of bargain bottles and overconfident universal claims. On one side, you have carefully engineered manufacturer spec fluids that quietly keep clutches alive and temperatures under control. On the other side, you have the 8 categories of fluid we just talked about, hiding landmines behind slick marketing and low prices. Here is the thing. Your transmission does not care about slogans, discounts, or convenience. It cares about whether the fluid matches the exact specification it was designed for. That means reading the owner's manual. It means looking up the exact code your car calls for. It means asking what a shop plans to pour into your gearbox and walking away if the answer is vague. The real kicker is that a few minutes of homework now can save you from a repair bill that looks suspiciously like the price of a decent used car. Once you have burned up a CVT, cooked a dual clutch, or trashed a modern 8-speed, there are no cheap fixes. You either write a huge check or you sell a broken car for pennies. If you want to avoid that kind of costly mistake and keep your gears alive, start treating transmission fluid as a critical component, not an afterthought. Check the specification. Question the universal claims. Do not let anyone experiment on your drivetrain just to save a few bucks. Hit subscribe if you want the truth about 2026 and if you want more videos that might literally save you thousands on your next repair.